The Bahamian brewery making a comeback. Post-traumatic stress disorder on the rise. And here one man's fight to save his family during Hurricane Dorian. The Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition, starts now.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, Northern Edition.
This is the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Good evening, all. I'm Shashina Rowe-Parkinson. As always, it is so great to have you with us. Topping news this evening, a rise in post-traumatic stress disorder and depression reported on Grand Bahama. A team charged with assessing all government employees severely affected by the storm, making that evaluation. Megan Shepard reports.
The word resilient has been used over and over again, nationally and internationally, to describe the spirit of Grand Bahamians. While residents have been going above and beyond to physically rebuild, the mental state of persons is a concern. Dr. Gregory Swan has been leading the clinical services for NEMA, and he says that a number of persons have been showing signs of post-traumatic stress disorder and depression.
Physical signs, emotional signs, and psychological signs. What we suggest to people to pay attention to is shifting in personality. Persons who are acting different. People who may be having difficulty coping from day to day. People may be having difficulty at work, having difficulty managing their normal activities. You also will find that people becoming impatient because it's now 6 weeks and life hasn't really returned to normal. So some signs of depression, some withdrawals, some signs and symptoms that are maybe consistent with PTSD or post-traumatic stress. Those are the general signs that a person can observe when interacting with persons who may be suffering.
Swan notes that persons are expressing varying levels of depression and reactions based on their geographical location during the storm.
Their level of exposure to disaster will determine their response, whether good or bad. Their duration of their exposure. So if someone was in the hurricane for, as we were saying some of the stories, 24 and 48 hours, their recovery period would be much more severe than someone who, say, was living in South Bahama where it didn't have the same level of impact. So geographically, we're noticing folks who are north of the ridge line are suffering greater signs and symptoms than persons who are south of the ridge line.
When it comes to dealing with children, Swan says to try to create a sense of normalcy.
Try to get them back in the normal routine. So I'm happy to learn that they'll be back in school tomorrow, so all schools will be open. I know the guidance departments in the school will be providing support services for the kids at school. So getting them back in the normal routine, whether it's back at school, getting the home back in order, getting them back on their work schedule, their sleep schedule, their eating schedule, and providing general support.
And following an alleged suicide just recently on this island, Swan says it is important to pay attention to any changes you may notice in your loved ones.
There's always concerns about behavioral reaction when we had a major disaster. One of the things that we need to be paying attention to is some of those signs and symptoms and triggers that can indicate that someone is suffering. So withdrawal is a significant one. People who kind of isolate themselves from others. Someone we know who may having issues with crying spells, lack of eating, lack of emotional drive. Those are some of the general signs that we can pay attention to. I think it's important that when we do have concerns, that we try to reach out and get help for the persons.
Now, if you or someone you know may be feeling depressed, you are urged to reach out.
They can reach out to the psychological services here at NEMA. They can also reach out to the community mental health clinic, the RAN mental health clinic. But there are services available to help folks cope.
Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
While the search continues for persons reported missing in the wake of Hurricane Dorian, members of the Royal Bahamas Police Force probing through settlements in East Grand Bahama again today with hopes of bringing closure to those families who were reported missing. Superintendent Brian Roll telling ZNS News on the ground in East End this afternoon that officers discovered human remains in the Rocky Creek area.
Police headquarters with intent to search a number of areas that we had targeted for the day. We started in the Rocky Creek area where we were able to recover the remains of what appears to be a male, badly decomposed body. That body is on the way to Freeport, to the morgue, and we will continue investigation with regards to that.
Now, out of the 30 persons reported missing, 9 bodies have been recovered. Roll says the Royal Bahamas Police Force Grand Bahama District will host a grieving session October 18th at 10 a.m. for persons trying to cope during this difficult time. In addition, Roll notes that search and rescue efforts will be ongoing, and he adds that the police force will double their efforts to recover every person reported missing as a result of Dorian.
Of course, our efforts would have been so far with the dogs who followed stench, as they might call it. Of course, from the residents who live here, some of them will tell you the mangroves in the water and thing, you normally will get that type of scent. But following every lead where stench is concerned, we have followed those. And if there was a body to recover them, with the equipment that we use, we would have recovered that. In some incidents we found dead animals instead of human remains.
Well, the Department of Environmental Health is concerned that the pileup of debris on the island following the storm can be a magnet for rodents. With that in mind, the department has brought in an expert in rodent control as a means to prevent a possible infestation. Megan Shepard has details.
Professor of Epidemiology at Yale University, Federico Costa, on island for a few days as a consultant for the Pan American Health Organization. Costa is currently working along with the Department of Environment, conducting an assessment on rodent control and the prevention of disease transmitted by rodents.
What we haven't seen is that because of the hurricane, there is a large amount of piles of garbage in almost every street of the island. Those places are highly conductive of rats, so they're a perfect environment for rats to proliferate. So those environments need to be take out or deal with as soon as possible.
Costa says that there are a few steps residents can take in order to mitigate the increased population of rodents.
One important is do not provide food to the rats, so try to put your trash in safe containers, or if you don't have a safe container, put it in a place that is high, especially because of the food, and also try to keep the rat outside of the household. So by closing every small hole in the doors, in the windows, or in the household. So protect the household from the outdoors, and also take out the trash and the organic trash, the food for the rat.
He also explains how to protect yourself from contracting diseases spread by rodents.
Rat transmitted in this region is leptospirosis. This disease is transmitted in the urine of the rat. So when the people step on water or in mud that is contaminated with this urine from those animals, people can become sick. So the idea is if when you go inside a place to clean the households or to clean those piles of garbage, always try to use safe boots and gloves, and try as much as you can use protective clothes in order to not expose your skin to this surface that can be contaminated with the urine of the rat.
Now, following a complete assessment on Grand Bahama, Costa will travel to Abaco to conduct an assessment there. From there, he says he will travel to the nation's capital to present his findings and create a strategic plan of action. Megan Shepard, ZNS Network News.
2 young men charged before the magistrate court today. Brandon Miller, 24, hauled before Deputy Chief Magistrate Debbie Ferguson on possession of an unlicensed firearm and ammunition. He pled not guilty, and the matter was adjourned to March of next year. Miller was remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections. Meantime, 22-year-old Larry Artillis was for violation of bail. He pled not guilty, and cash bail was granted in the amount of $2,500. That matter was also adjourned to April of next year for trial. And police have released the identity of the man found hanging from a rope in the area of the Jack Hayward High School on Saturday past. He is British citizen, 50-year-old Cubby St. Clair Forbes. Reports say Forbes had only recently arrived on Grand Bahama from the Turks and Caicos Islands. The alleged suicide is currently under investigation. And switching gears now, former Director of Immigration and Consul General to New York, Dr. Doswell Coakley, has passed away. Deputy Prime Minister and Member of Parliament for East Grand Bahama, K. Peter Turnquist, offering sympathies to the Coakley family, noting that Dr. Coakley was a model of intellectual brilliance and someone who rose from humble beginnings and gave exemplary service to all his country and communities near and abroad. Turnquist says the late Doswell Coakley made a pioneering and revolutionary mark in the Bahamas Department of Immigration, whose remarkable reach at home and in international circles made him a forever Rotarian, productive past president of the Grand Bahama Chamber of Commerce, and a knowledgeable lodge brother who could always be counted on. The Deputy Prime Minister says Coakley's was a life of inspiring achievements and one who gave much in the building of a better Bahamas. Coakley, he notes, added value to everyone he met, and things he touched, and his smarts was a shining trait. The Deputy Prime Minister says Dr. Doswell Coakley has truly left an iconic legacy of service, and he will be missed. You're watching the Bahamas Tonight, the Northern Edition. Stay with us. There's more news right after the break.